The snow didn't deter the women who lined the walk leading into the White House door as they waited their turn to claim their babies. But for the 49 women who should have been struggling to remain calm because their babies could be heard crying from within the house, they didn't seem bothered. And regardless of where the babies were physically located, their cries seemed to be amplified, as if the ferocity of the cries was intended to get a reaction that was never achieved. The women represented a broad portion of the power structure currently existing in D.C. Some of them were the CEOs of multi-international conglomerates, while others might be department heads in the financial community, section chiefs at the Homeland Security, FBI, as well as other women in key government roles. The Secret Service also was represented by a woman who was a key policy maker at the agency and who had a maternal interest to be protected. This distinction, though, didn't give the woman any special privilege. They all stood in line. One man was also in the line, making the actual count of parental representatives at 50, even though he was only an acquaintance of a woman who could not take any time off from her workplace. Some of the women on a normal day had easy access to the White House, but due to the unusual circumstance surrounding the baby's disappearance and return, total accountability had to be maintained, because after all, there were 50 babies missing, but only 49 were present to be identified. Access control appeared easy, with the first 4 women being searched and then let into the foyer where they would venture down under escort to the room currently retaining their offspring. But things suddenly changed when the man arrived at the entrance and was prepared to be searched as the entrance door suddenly slammed shut. The security guards were taken back by the sound of the crashing door as they turned to look. One of the guards looked scared because he was on duty the night all the doors slammed open and shut in the White House. But regardless, one of the less disturbed guards moved quickly to reopen the entrance, thinking that all the other guards were fools. Unfortunately, the door would not open for the man, and he tried to push even harder, as if his strength would make a difference. Again, he found out that the door was not going to budge. An idea was quickly considered where the remaining parents would go to another door for entry. So the group stepped off the cleared sidewalk into the snow that was ankle deep. But their idea rapidly fell apart when that door also would not budge. Meanwhile, at the same time that the group was trying to enter the White House through different means, the 4 previous women that went in were observed exiting from the front door with their babies in hand. The woman, though, assigned to the Secret Service protecting the White House, and one of the 4 leaving the premise with her child, told the astonished officer standing there, disbelieving the door was open, that once she took her baby home, she would be back to work the next day. The remaining parents, seeing the front door open, again quickly trudged back through the snow to the entrance to continue their effort in retrieving their children. But once they arrived, with the male figure leading the way, the entrance to the White House slammed shut again. And while the screaming by the children inside has receded for some reason, the screams and hollers of the parents outside increased, but not out of determination to retrieve their brood, but rather out of frustration that they had better things to do. The chief of staff, who had been watching the events take place outside the front entrance, suddenly exits through the front entrance and allows the door to slam shut behind her, because this unusual activity has already played games with her mind over the last couple of days. And her words to the group were sensitive and sincere. Go home and come back tomorrow. The babies are being cared for, but tonight you cannot take them. Missing, though, were the tears of distress associated with the imposed separation of a mother and child, as the 45 women and one man turned away from the White House and ventured off to retrieve their cars. The chief of staff turns and looks at the White House one more time, because the house has a history, but what was happening now she could not know. The security staff working the entrance could only stand and watch as the woman walked back to the front entrance, where she turned the knob. The door easily opens and she enters. The next day, though, the female Secret Service member enters the White House and was met by the chief of staff. Both women hugged, because yesterday was a trying day for both of them, and they conversed about the Secret Service woman's baby, who was at home being cared for by a new caregiver. Unfortunately, about that moment, the Secret Service woman's cell phone rang, and it was quickly answered. And about this point, the chief of staff can't help but notice the other woman's face goes white as she starts yelling at the caller, "Where the hell were you?" But before the person on the other side of the conversation could answer, the babies in the far-off room started to cry again. The woman hangs up the cell as the two women start hurrying down the corridor, the chief of staff quickly questioning the woman as they run. What was that all about? And without missing a step, the woman replies, "Someone stole my baby again." The two women stop at the edge of the room, where the children are still bawling, and for whatever reason the Secret Service woman is not feeling any concern. The two women enter, and just as before, the crying stops. But where there were 46 babies before, there is now 49. And without displaying any form of disbelief, the woman goes over to where she picked up her child yesterday and picked the baby up again today.